Basically, like I said, my name is Dub FX. I make music live on the spot by recording my voice into this loop station. So basically, I press record like this, and then I press the button again and it loops like this, yeah? Record like this, and then I press the button again and it loops like this. The reason I can do that is that I can make a beat like a and record the beat and loop that and then put more beats on top of that, yeah? So I'm gonna start a groove like through the mic.
Basically, like, my whole journey began sort of, well, I mean, it's kind of stages, you know what I mean? The whole thing, the journey begins when I was a kid, really, but at the end of the day, like, I always wanted to be a street performer. My parents were not street performers, but my mum used to make earrings, and they'd go out in the street and I'd sell it on the street, and they travelled around doing that kind of stuff. And so it's kind of in my blood in a way. Like they were doing markets, you know, when I was a kid. I remember going to markets and they sold their jewellery that my mum would make and stuff. And I always used to watch street performers when I was a kid, and I used to think, damn, I really want to do that one day. And I just didn't expect that I would. I just kind of, you know, that kind of was when I was a kid. And then as I got older and I started playing music with bands, and I started developing my musical sort of consciousness and getting involved with different projects, from jazz bands to hip hop bands to heavy metal to reggae, and just emceeing with DJs in techno and all that sort of stuff. And then by the time I got to about the age of 23, I'd been doing loads of stuff, and I was kind of getting a bit sick of being in Australia, because Australia's quite a small place. Even though it's a massive country, there's not a lot of people there, and it's quite difficult to get ahead, and it's quite a, you know, it's just quite a difficult industry to crack in a way, because there's not enough people to support underground music. So I thought, well, I'll just go to Europe and travel and maybe do some street performing while I'm over there, just to pay my way in. And my idea was that I'd get inspired to maybe write some sick songs, and then I could get a record deal and, you know, have some wicked album and that I could make with a band or something like that. But what happened was something completely that I didn't expect. Was that when I started street performing, I started selling more CDs on the street, and I started developing really quickly this different sound with the loop station. The loop station was actually initially there as like a tool to create backing tracks just for the moment. Like, I was always thinking about how it would sound recorded in the studio.
It's possible to love someone and not treat them in the way that you want. It's possible to see your eyes be the devil in disguise with another front end. It's possible to change this world, revolutionize the boys and girls. It's possible to educate the next generation, never rule the world someday now. It's possible to love someone and not treat them in the way that you want.
But what happened was, I think people kind of saw that unique sort of way of making music, and kind of thought, well, that's kind of cool, I like that. And the music that I was making, it reflected of where I was, you know. Like when I was in Italy, I was making really melodic, poppy, reggae kind of stuff, whereas when I was in England, everyone there quite likes dark, sort of grimy stuff like dubstep and jungle and all that stuff. So I started making that kind of music, and I fell in love with all those genres while I was there, and it kind of just developed as I went. And then it was not very long before I met Flower Fairy. Like, I think I'd probably been street performing for about 4 months around Europe. I'd probably about a month in England at that point, and then I met her, and I was selling my CDs by myself. That's how I was making all my money, just selling CDs. And then one day, when I sort of started hanging out with her and we were dating and stuff, I was like, do you want to come and do some, you know, sell my CDs for me? And so she's like, yeah, cool, I'll do that. She's like, I'll be your gypsy queen. So a gypsy Flower Fairy. So she came out with the CDs, and literally in one song she sold 20 CDs, and I was like, she's like, have you got any more CDs? I'm like, no. I'm like, we can go home then. We made our money. So, you know, we should just hang out and smoke weed and just sort of walk around town and just kind of, you know, go street performing, and like, it became so much easier having her around, and it kind of just sort of worked out that, like, we was really compatible together, you know. Like, we were both not really trying to look for companions or anything. It was just more like we just sort of happened, didn't it? Like,
We were just hanging out and then developed.
we were just good mates, and it just kind of and then as soon as I bought a van and I started traveling by myself, I think I went off, like, we were hanging out for like 3 months, and then I bought a van and went traveling by myself while she was still at work. and we kind of started missing each other, and I was doing really badly without it. Then I went back to Australia, and I was doing the street performing over there, and it was kind of tough, and so I emailed her. I was like, I want to come back, and I want to steal you and take you with me around the world, and I want you to be my flower fairy. Whenever we're together, as long as we're together, it's always okay. Like I'm pretty shit on my own, and like she's pretty like scatty as well. We're pretty flaky, so like together we make one whole human being.
Yeah, it's
in my
true.
opinion. It's like if we're not together, shit goes wrong really quickly.
We just crumble.
We crumble.
The mouse ran down, hickory dickory dog. Hickory dickory dog. The mouse ran up this cloud. Gold, the clock struck 1. The mouse ran down, hickory dickory dog.
This is me. Leave a message after the beep.
Well, I know it's late and it's probably fate that I can't get through to you. But I needed to hear your voice in my ear to start my day anew. But your phone was off and I missed your calls, and now you're fast asleep. So when you get up and you're ready to rock, you can make my mobile beep.
Basically, like our view of the world coming from like sort of nomadic gypsies. I wouldn't, like sort of call us that really, but at the end of the day, we do live in a van, and we travel around, and we tour around a lot, and we make music on the street, and we make money off people directly. They come up and they give us their cash, and we give them our art, and there's nothing else in there. There's no middleman, and that lifestyle kind of grounds me. I mean, it grounds us into getting a better understanding of what the culture out there in the street is. I think people who live up in the buildings and work in all these industries and like these marketing agents and people who like do these surveys and marketing research and all this stuff and try and get at what the world wants,
jobs, yeah.
all these office jobs, and it's like I've got nothing against all of that, but it's like in a way it's a very clinical view of life. I mean, we kind of just comment on what we see every day, and I don't think, a lot of people, there's a lot of arguments as to whether the world's coming to an end or whether there's a conscious shift taking place. And, I see it definitely both things happening. I think we're coming to a point in the world where we've got such incredible technology and we've got such incredible conscious vibe going on, like people understanding about health and nutrition in ways that we didn't even 10 years ago. I wasn't even
Just
fathoming.
holistically in general.
And I think like that's all coming up to the surface.
The faces that saw me and the angels that warned me, they told me to run and dispose of the gun. I could have escaped, be gone with no trace. Instead I just stayed within society's gaze. Cause I can run but I can't hide, and I must justify.
I've also been thinking as well, like you can really affect your surroundings big time, because like if for example you grow up in a town and you happen to be quite forward thinking and conscious with your mind state, and there's 3 people that live in your neighborhood who are naturally quite, I don't know, ignorant and growing up in a situation where they don't really know a lot and like, maybe quite rednecky or whatever like
Which
that.
might not even be their fault. It's
Might not
just
be
the
their
product
fault,
of
whatever.
an environment.
But having one person in the environment who's got more of a conscious mind can totally change, just with their vibration, just being in that area, can totally change the how things can pan out for all these people.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's just a bunch of ignorant dickheads all hanging out together, they're just going to get up to dicky ignorant things.
Yeah.
But and even if those 3 idiots pick on someone who's really conscious, they're still picking up on that person's vibration. They're
Yeah, at
still
the same time, of
eventually it's
course.
going to somehow cause some kind of change in their lives in some way, and that's
Very,
a big
very,
thing.
very small ripple effect.
You affect your surroundings as much as the surroundings affect you. It's all goes hand in hand, yin and yang.